Hi, I'm Kylie, and no, I don't think white people can experience racism. Can white people experience hatred because of the color of their skin? Yes. But is it as severe or damaging as when people of color experience racism? No, not at all. And because there are institutional barriers to the success of people of color and systemic inequalities, racism is a stronger and more apt term for what people of color experience on a day-to-day basis. Prejudice is simply harboring negative attitudes towards somebody based on a characteristic that they can't control, which I feel is a better description of the attitudes that some people of color have towards white people. Am I going to be profiled and arrested based on the color of my skin? No. Am I going to have a harder time getting a job because of the color of my skin? No. Am I more likely to be arrested, incarcerated, or wrongly convicted because of the color of my skin? Or called slurs? No, I'm not. So that is why we say white people can experience prejudice, but not racism necessarily. Because it diminishes the harm of actual racism by saying that white people can experience it. You don't say that men experience sexism, because they don't. Yeah, some women have hostile attitudes towards men, but it doesn't affect their day-to-day life or their opportunities or make them psychologically distressed.
So I'm going to go ahead and openly admit that I am completely ignorant about the white experience with racism, and I'm sure that is painfully obvious to a lot of you. Now, I know that I'm always telling other people don't be lazy and entitled, the internet is free, look things up on your own, but it's not that I haven't tried to engage in my own research. I have literally searched, how do white people experience racism? And unfortunately, not a lot of information comes up. Most of it is articles questioning whether white people can experience racism, or articles about the myth of anti-white racism. However, I of all people know that the dominant narrative is not necessarily accurate because it is often pushing a harmful agenda. So because there is that dearth of information on the internet, I was wondering if you could please help me understand, how do white people experience racism, and what does experiencing racism look like from your perspective as a white person? And also, can you help me understand, if white people experience racism, why are there not more of you who are working to dismantle racism? Because what I've noticed is I'm often told that white people do experience racism without any specifics, and in the context of either gaslighting or upholding the racism that other people experience. Whereas with most people of the global majority, when we share similarities and differences in how we experience racism, we use that information to increase our work to dismantle racism. Whereas people like you seem to only bring it up to decrease that work.
A lot of my content is about our shared disdain for Trump. And I have a lot of white people that follow me. I'm very pro-Black. And the fact that I have to continue to repeat that is very telling. When I talk about Black experiences, I don't need y'all in my comments talking about what happened to y'all. The Black experience is very unique and it is very specific. And a lot of our negative experiences, if not all of them, are fueled by racism. I don't need you to debate my point because it's non-debatable, because you don't have the experience, because you're not Black. So again, I am very pro-Black, and I will try to be kind. But if you continue to try and negate my experiences or the experiences of other Black people, I'll just block you, because I don't have time for the nonsense.
So guys, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing good. In the recent years, conversations about race have expanded in new and unexpected ways. But one question continues to spark intense debate: that do white people experience racism? Many white individuals have begun sharing stories they feel represent discrimination or unfair treatment. Others argue that racism is rooted in historical power structures and therefore can't apply in the same way. So today, we are just going to explore the different sides of this discussion, what people are saying, what they mean, and why the topic continues to grow. So let's get into these clips, then I'll be coming back with more commentaries. In case of any thoughts, kindly feel free to let me know in the comments section. Stay tuned.
Can we talk about how in white social circles, if you're not racist, you get called boring? Rural California has a lot of conservative white people, and I would say they are like this the most, but they will make some really overused and stupid joke where the punchline is someone's race. Something I heard a lot growing up was, what do you call two Mexican basketball players It's one-on-one. It's just not funny, right? Like, it's not creative. The punchline is someone's race or the fact that they're a woman or the fact that they're an immigrant. And if you don't laugh or you say, oh, that's not really that funny, then they'll be like, oh, look who doesn't have a sense of humor. Like, woke, liberal, like, you're so boring. Have you ever considered that you're just not funny? That you just are not original, and humor doesn't have to be making fun of somebody to be good, right? In these white circles, the way that they so casually are racist is integral to keeping people together. Like, racism bonds white people together in a lot of places. And I'm fucking tired of it. And that's why I don't hang out with people like this in my adulthood when I don't have to see them or associate with these types of people when I have that choice. This might be a hot take, but there's a huge difference between being not racist and anti-racist. Growing up as a white person, I was not racist. I didn't say the N-word, but I also was terrified to participate in any sort of discussion about race. I sort of just stayed out of it, right? I was like, this isn't a problem I contribute to, but it's also not going to be a problem that I help put an end to, I guess. Then I went to college at Brown, and that's where I learned that not being racist is in its own way contributing to racism. Because if you are too scared as a white person to call out the racism of other people or to critically examine your own biases, especially your implicit ones, that is still a contributing factor to the problem. And that's why I now make the content that I do, because I'm thinking back to all of these things that I heard as a child, and I'm seeing my entire life in a new light. Like, wow, this family was quite racist. This friend was racist. All these things that the people I went to high school with that they did, sort of critically examining it as well as my own biases. So if you are someone who continues to insist that you're not racist, you're probably contributing to the problem. There's always more to learn. My name's Kylie, and this is how hatred is taught in a lot of white families. If you've ever wondered how can people grow up and be so hateful or just so out of touch, this is how. A lot of the time, hatred is silent and insidious, and it teaches white people to be complicit in racism and other types of bigotry. For instance, if you do want to have a conversation about race or something else, your parent might quickly shut you down and say, oh, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about these types of things. That is how white people are socialized to be so unbelievably selfish and honestly ignorant of racism, despite being the perpetuators of it, despite literally creating the system. That's why I said in a previous video that our knowledge of racism is like honestly like children, because we are not taught to discuss these things, right? That's why white people get so defensive, because they hit their 20s and 30s and for the first time they're being called out. That combined with scarcity thinking, they're taking our jobs, there's not enough for the rest of us. That ignorance is what creates hatred. For the most part, the white moderate is the truly dangerous people, because they're not the full-blown extremists, but they're the people just in the middle that allow these types of comments and honestly racist practices to continue. If you grew up and you were taught to be nice and not question the status quo, you were taught to be complicit in systems like racism, transphobia, and homophobia. There are 3 ways that white people are racist, often without realizing. Number 1, the first way you're racist without knowing it is by thinking that everyone has an equal playing field. If you're someone who subscribes to the American dream and you truly believe that black people are only in the position that they are in because of a lack of effort, that is racist. Because again, there are systemic barriers to the success of people of color. Number 2, not having any friends who aren't white. Probably thinking, well, how is this racist? Because you're not communicating and learning from people of color. Because you're not interacting with people who are different from you, you're not learning, and you're probably continuing to perpetuate those biases. To me, all white friend groups are weird and suggest that you cannot maintain a relationship with a person of color, probably because of your ignorance. And the third way is by assuming that any successful person of color only did so because of DEI. DEI makes it so people of color get opportunities, because otherwise people would be racist and withhold them. It has nothing to do with their talent or ability. Racism is the default. So if you don't deconstruct your own internalized biases, you are going to perpetuate racism in you.
White people have been victims of racism. You're right. Probably, but not in the way that you think. Not in the way that you think. So hold on. I'm thinking about how much propaganda about black people and people of color that has been fed to the white community to the point where they genuinely fear all people who are not white. And because of that fear, they have been so exploited by the upper elite class, and they don't know it. So we could, have free healthcare right now, but the elite said if you get free healthcare, the blacks might get some too, and they're I don't want to be in the same hospital with a black. And so no, let's pay for healthcare. Or redlining, let's keep the blacks out of our neighborhood, and so I'll pay extra money to keep the blacks out. Or with the same thing with HOAs, I'll pay extra money in order to keep the blacks out. Or tuition, I'll pay more tuition because I'm afraid of the blacks. Every single time the government pushes black fear onto white people, they're pushing black fear in their faces while pickpocketing them behind their backs. Like the same thing with Trump. It's like, oh, Trump is going to help, make America great again for all the MAGA people. They are making America great again by getting rid of the scary, angry, the immigrants who are, raping the women and offing the children, all at the same time. Destroying healthcare for all of the destroying the healthcare subsidies, taking away SNAP benefits which is largely from lower class white people. Destroying all of the farms that are creating revenue for the United States by selling it to China, but they put tariffs on China because they're afraid, because you guys are afraid of the Chinese, you're afraid of everyone else, America first. And it's just like, that's the thing. It's like every single thing that the racist elite does, they do it so that they can pickpocket the pockets of white people while telling them it's the scary blacks, it's the scary people of color. I'm just like, then y'all, and the white people, y'all fall for it every single time. Y'all are so afraid of having to be near a person of color with brown skin or black skin that you're willing to pay extra thousands of dollars in order to keep away from the scary black people. And it's just like, you're hurting yourself. And so that I'm thinking about making a full podcast episode on this and going into deep diving into facts, because there's so much propaganda against black people and people of color. White people, they just eat it up. You just believe it all. Turn around and say that we're the ones who are racist, that's nuts. And then pay the fee. You pay the fee of racism every time, and it's upsetting because you all are being exploited. White people are being exploited by racism, but they don't see that because they have the money to pay the fee. But we're at a point where they have no more money to pay these fees, and white people are now upset about not being able to have money to pay the fees of racism. But they instead will not say it's racism, it's not Trump, it's everyone else, and this is, capitalism still works. And capitalism is not the problem, racism is not the problem, patriarchy is not the problem, although, girls are being hurt and harmed by men everywhere. Religion is not the problem, although it creates the mentality of not fighting back against your authority figure or your master or whatever. But, Christianity is not the problem. And all these things, all these systems are not the problem. It is something else. It's something else, and it's never white people, and it's never the U.S. government, and it's never anything you don't want it to be, and it's always what they tell you that it is, even though they've been telling you that black people are the problem, and Hispanic people are the problem, and people of color and brown people are the problem for 400 years, and the problems have only been getting worse. Have you noticed that? Have white people noticed that the country has just been getting worse and worse and worse, but you all have been saying it's brown people that are the problem, and now all the brown people they're gone, or they're still going, and somehow, some way, things are still awful, things still suck, prices are still going up, wages are still going down, or staying stagnant, which means they're going down in comparison to the prices of goods going up. Things still suck, but it's the blacks.
Guys, the first challenge is that people often use the word racism in different ways. For some, it means any form of discrimination or prejudice based on skin color. For others, it refers to a system of power, historic, political, and social, where one racial group holds advantage over others. Both definitions appear frequently online, and the confusion between them fuels much of the debate. So, what do some white people say they experience? Even when I was scrolling through the social media, the interviews and online discussions, some white individuals share that they have faced experiences they view as discriminatory. Some say they have been stereotyped, excluded, or judged based solely on their race. Others point to moments where they felt socially unwelcome or unfairly labeled because of broader political or racial tensions. Guys, while these experiences may not always align with historical systemic racism, many people feel these moments are still hurtful and deserve acknowledgement. On the other side, we have counter arguments. Many people argue that racism is tied to long-standing power structures, laws, and historical inequities. From this perspective, while white individuals may experience prejudice or bias, they may not experience racism in the systemic sense. Scholars who hold this view emphasize the difference between personal prejudice and institutional racism, noting that the historical context matters. So, why is this debate keep coming up? This debate resurfaces because different groups see the world from different lived experiences, and as conversations about race have become more public, people from all backgrounds, including white people, have begun reflecting on how race affects them personally. Social media amplifies these stories, sometimes creating conflict, but also opening space for dialogue. And the questions keep returning. Is this racism? Is it prejudice? Is it discrimination? These conversations reveal how deeply race shapes modern life. Guys, instead of dismissing or attacking each other's experiences, many experts encourage listening and redefining terms clearly. Recognizing the difference between racism, discrimination, and prejudice helps people understand each other better. The goal is not to compete over who suffers more. It's to build clarity about what people feel and why understanding these definitions helps societies make clearer progress towards fairness for everyone. Guys, this conversation will continue as people keep sharing their stories and viewpoints. So what do you think? Do white people experience racism, or is the issue more complex than it seems? Kindly share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more discussions like this, because we have discussed in this video a lot, and we have known even that white people also experience racism. So this question, you know how it really sparks debates, reactions, and personal stories across social media, and that is why I decided to share this video so that we can dive into these perspectives of white individuals discussing whether they too face racism, bias, or discrimination in modern society. So guys, let me know in the comment section what you think about what people may say or what people mean when they say racism. Let's discuss the difference between racism, bias, and prejudice, and also share the stories from even the white individuals. Share stories on individuals who believe they have faced unfair treatment. Give your perspectives, even from scholars and everyday people on both sides. Why this conversation keeps growing in America and globally. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how history, power, and lived experience shape people's views. This is a balanced, respectful discussion meant to inform and not to divide, guys. Watch, reflect, and share your thoughts in the comments. Guys, subscribe for more social insights and real-life conversations. Turn on notifications for upcoming videos. Thank you, and of course, all credit belongs to the original creators of the video. This video is meant for educational purposes and commentary purposes as well. Thank you, be blessed, and have a nice time. Peace be with you.